Freda Wasserman is here on the call. Hi, Freda.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you. Thank you for being on. I thought when I saw that picture of my mom that her caregiver sent me when she did a socially distanced visit, I got this pang of guilt. And then I sent you an email and I said, could you please talk on Mother's Day? A pang of guilt, a pang of grief, really grief. And my mom is alive, but I still can't see her closely. I can't give her a hug right now. So I thought I'm going to have you present to us just some thoughts on what we could think about during this time on this day. Many of us, it's Mother's Day, but regardless, we're all impacted by moms in many ways, either way. So thank you for being here.
Yeah. The first thing that comes to my mind when came to my mind when you were writing was in terms of working with children. And in particular, I was remembering the idea of working with children whose mother is no longer living. So in my day, the olden days, they would say things, and I still hear it occasionally, especially in school or in Girl Scouts or brownies or something. Say, okay, this week we're going to have a project and we're going to make something for your mom for Mother's Day. And if you don't have a mom, then why don't you make something for someone else? And I think that's a big mistake because children whose mom maybe isn't living or they're separated from her still may have some very strong feelings about mom. And so I would rather say something, and I've talked to lots of teachers and instructors and about the idea to just say, whether or not your mom is in your life alive right now, what message would you like to send her? How about if you make something, here's our project, make something for her anyway. Or what card would you like to write to her? What would you want her to know about you or about your feelings towards her? And then after they've done the project, what will you do with it now? Do you have a special place in your room that you'd like to keep it, or some place that you'd like to have that project? You know, I've even heard stories where children were sent out of the classroom because the teacher knew that they didn't have a mom and didn't want them to feel awkward in class, so they were sent out. I mean, oh my goodness. So if some of you are working with children without moms, even in the next week or, after Mother's Day, give them that opportunity to say, what were you thinking about on Mother's Day? Or what would you like to write? Or how about if today you write a card and make a picture or do a drawing or something that you would like to be able to give your mom? And then, of course, that brings me to all of us who, for the majority, I think we may not be able to see our moms this year, living or not. And I was going to take you through, and if it's okay, I will take you through just maybe a very short little guided meditation that might be a nice way to connect either with your mom or the mother you wish you had, or the person who filled that role for you, or even meet with your fairy godmother. So if you'd like to follow along, I invite you to just sit kind of comfortably back in your chair. Patrick, you're going to hear this today and tomorrow. Just get comfortable and quiet and let your breath bring you inward. And in particular, go to that place around your heart that whole heart center opening and allowing in for you an image of your mom or the person that you relate to as a mother figure, or to that magical fairy godmother who knows you well and loves you unconditionally. And see if you can actually get a visual of this person. Look at her face. Look deeply into her eyes. What feelings come up as you do? How does she look to you? Does the way you have seen her recently, or are you seeing her at a time way in the past? Look at the expression on her face. How does she seem to be reacting as she looks at you and sees you there in front of her? And if you feel comfortable, you can embrace her or go and sit or stand close to her, wherever feels just right. And you'll notice right now, are you the age you are today? Or are you having a memory of being a much younger child or even a baby? And how does that connection physically and emotionally appear to you? As you are in proximity to her, not only are you looking at her face and her body language, but listen, if you can, to hear the sound of her voice. Does she speak to you or sing to you? Is she communicating non-verbally? And what message would you like to convey to her today on this Mother's Day, on this day of connection? And if you are ready to, go ahead and say those things to her or communicate those thoughts, those emotions to this very special person. And if you listen really carefully and allow your unconscious imagination to come forward, what does she want to say to you? Take a few moments to just be with her in any way that feels right for this moment. And in a few moments, it's going to be time to say farewell to her for this little exercise. So really look around with your inner eyes and bring in with all your senses the comfort or beauty or love or caring that you may be sensing now. And then very gradually, you will say goodbye in any way that seems appropriate. And begin to allow this image to fade, bringing back with you something, whatever it is that has filled your heart. And if your eyes have been closed, when you open them, do so very gradually, feeling yourself back in your home or your office or wherever you are right now, back in your chair, present across the airwaves with all of us. And take a couple of full breaths of transition as you come all the way back. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Freda. That's beautiful. There's a question here in the chat. Are you there? Or you want me to read it?
Yeah, sorry, my screen's not working.
Oh, sorry.
Freda, I was just curious, what would you advise teachers? What language would they use for children who are surrogates? So they don't have a mom, they're not in contact with their mom, and they just have a dad?
Sure. Well, I think we all had a mother, whether we knew them or didn't. Sometimes it's an ideal, an ideation of who that person would be. But just having a chance at a time like Mother's Day to feel that nurturing love and care from the parenting figure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would adapt it to that, of course, to that child's situation. Yeah. Thank you for asking that.
Okay. Yeah. Great. So, well, thank you very much. I personally really appreciated it. I wanted to make sure I was still on the call, but also really benefited. So appreciate you being here. And